You know the feeling when you're looking at an old photograph and you just get hit with this incredible sense of a moment that's gone? Well, that's exactly the feeling we're going to dive into today as we unpack a short, but honestly an incredibly powerful poem, Shirley Toulson's A Photograph. So, before we really jump in, just think about that for a second. We've all got them, right? Old photos tucked away somewhere, freezing a single instant in time. But what about all the life, all the story that happened around that single moment? That question is really at the very heart of this poem.
So, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by looking at the poem as a whole, getting a feel for its core themes. Then, we'll take a journey through it, stanza by stanza, exploring the past, then the present, and finally, landing on the really profound silence that wraps the whole thing up.
All right, let's get right into it. Our whole story begins with the object at the center of it all, the photograph itself.
Okay, so this is the poem we're exploring today, A Photograph. It's really this beautiful, poignant tribute to the poet's mother, and it's built in 3 clear stages, all circling back to this one, single, probably faded childhood snapshot. Now, before we go line by line, let's get to the emotional heart of the poem. I think if you can get a handle on these core ideas first, everything else just clicks into place. So, what's this poem really about? Well, at its core, it's all about this powerful contrast. On one hand, you have life, which is so fleeting, always changing. And on the other, you have the memory of what's been lost, which can feel so permanent, so heavy. This creates a tone that's, both nostalgic for the past, but also deeply sad. And the big message here? A photograph is kind of like a double-edged sword. Sure, it saves a happy moment, but it also becomes this constant, painful reminder that the moment is gone for good. Okay, so let's see how the poet builds these ideas, starting right from the beginning, in the first stanza, which pulls us right into the world inside that photograph. The poem kicks off like this. It puts us right there, looking over the poet's shoulder at this old picture. We see her mother as a young girl, about 12 years old, on a beach with her 2 younger cousins. Just a simple, happy, innocent family moment. And that first word, cardboard, is so important. It tells you right away that this photo is old, it's fragile, it's just this flimsy piece of paper, but it holds this incredibly heavy memory of youth and joy. And her mother is the big girl. She's the protective one, right at the center of it all. And then you get that classic snapshot moment. A sweet face, my mother's. That was before I was born. This line is just so powerful. It immediately creates this distance. This isn't just the past. This is a version of her mother the poet never even knew. The poet uses a really beautiful poetic device here. Just listen to the S sound in stood still to smile. That's called alliteration. The repetition of that soft sound gives the line this gentle, almost whisper-like quality, which perfectly matches the sweet, quiet memory she's describing. Now, this next part is where the poem's central theme just hits you. And the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. The sea is this huge, almost eternal thing. It has changed less. But what's it washing over? Terribly transient feet. What a powerful image. It's about human life, which is, by its very nature, so temporary. And this brings us to another brilliant poetic device. The word transient, which just means temporary, is used to describe the feet. But obviously it's not the feet themselves that are temporary. It's the lives of the girls. This is called a transferred epithet, and it's so incredibly effective. By sticking that huge idea of human mortality onto a small detail like feet, Toulson creates this unforgettable picture of how fragile we are next to the power of nature.
All right, now we're going to jump forward in time. The second stanza completely shifts our focus from the moment in the photograph to the poet's own memory of her mother, years and years later. So boom, we've jumped forward. Some 20, 30 years later, she'd laugh at the snapshot. Decades have passed. Now the poet is remembering her mother as an adult, looking at that same photo and laughing about it. We've just added a whole other layer of time and memory to the story. And this right here is the heart of the second stanza. The poem draws this beautiful parallel. For the mother, the photograph was a memory of her own lost childhood. But for the poet, the memory is of her mother's lost laughter. They're both looking back at something precious that's now gone forever. This next line is just wow. It is packed with so much complex emotion, both wry with the labored ease of loss. Both of their memories are described as wry, which is this kind of dry, ironic sadness. They're both looking back at a happy time that's gone, and there's a real painful irony in that.
And here we have this fantastic oxymoron, labored ease. I mean, think about that. How can something be difficult, labored, and easy at the same time? Well, this phrase just perfectly captures the ongoing struggle of grief. You learn to live with loss. You find a kind of ease, but it's always labored. It's the constant hard work of accepting that someone is gone. And now, we arrive at the final stanza. This brings us right into the present moment, and the tone here shifts dramatically. It gets really stark and very, very quiet. And this is where we get this just brutal piece of emotional math. The poet realizes her mother has now been dead for about 12 years, the exact same amount of time she had lived when that photo was taken. The life of that happy young girl is now perfectly balanced by an equal length of absence. And when you're faced with a reality that stark, well, there is nothing to say at all. The loss is just too big for words. This leads us straight into the poem's devastating final line, a conclusion that doesn't offer any resolution, just a continuation of that feeling. That's it, just 3 words, but they carry the entire weight of the poem. It's silence, silences.
So what does that even mean? Well, the silence surrounding her mother's death is so huge, so absolute, that it forces silence onto the poet too. The photograph, which used to be a source of stories and laughter, is now just a silent thing that points to an even bigger silence, the finality of death. There are no more stories to add, no more memories to make. There's only the overwhelming silence of absence.
And that really leaves us with this final, lingering thought. The poem suggests that maybe our most profound memories and our deepest losses aren't the ones we talk about in stories, but the ones that leave us in complete and total silence. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What memories has silence preserved for you?